Today we are going to do a free training talking about a case study that we just had where last month in a state that is predominantly locked down, we were able to generate 235 leads, 25 appointments, and 8 calls for a business that we work with on a $2,000 ad spend. So I asked, you guys said that you wanted to see really what this concept was, what was the campaign setup, what did we do to make this happen? And so that is what we're going to be talking about today. This is a case study covering a kitchen and bath business. So a lot of you guys know I have worked really heavily with the remodeling and kitchen and bath industry for a long time. I have extensive experience there. We do work with all types of local businesses, but this is one of our kitchen and bath clients. They are an agency client, so that means that we're doing everything for them. We do have setup options, we do have coaching options, but this is an agency client specifically. So their ad spend was $2,000 a month. And ultimately, when I started working with them, maybe about 7 months ago at this point, 7-8 months ago, we had planned on doing live educational seminars. So this is a strategy that I've used for remodeling businesses for a really long time, but especially the local businesses that I work with, virtually all of them can use this same type of concept. Before their live training was supposed to happen, or their live seminar, which we had gotten, I think, 120 registrations on maybe $1,000 of ad spend, which was awesome. They were super excited, but then their state shut down and they were not able to do this live event. So on a dime, we switched and I did a webinar version of this live educational seminar. So I have been teaching this information for a long time, so it was very easy for me to do that for them. And ultimately, whatever is going to make my clients more successful, that's what we try and do. But anybody can really do this same concept. However, it's a little bit different than a webinar. First, before we go into that, I just kind of want to explain the pros and cons of doing this type of campaign with a live event versus an online version. So with live seminars, you get so many benefits that are really hard to replicate in an online scenario, such as bringing people into your physical location, being able to really develop a strong rapport with them, being able to show them things that they can touch and feel related to what you sell or what you offer. And you tend to just inspire action very easily, because if the content is great and it's really helpful for them, they're going to trust you and they're going to feel good about taking the next steps with you. So that was actually an offer that we were running prior to COVID, and we would help businesses really set up everything they need for these events, from the content to all the campaigns to get people to register, everything they need to get people to show up on the day of, and then all the follow-up that happens afterwards, as well as the coordination on the day of. So there is more that goes into it in terms of someone's physical time. However, I still believe that if that's possible for you, I would always opt for that type of scenario if possible, because I've never seen anything work as well in terms of the number of people who will schedule appointments, the number of people who are going to actually convert into paying customers. And those paying customers tend to convert a lot easier. They also have, historically, based on the data we've collected over about 5 or 6 years now, they spend more money. And that's hard to beat. Granted, this can work just as well in a lot of ways. I just hate missing those in-person elements, because it is something that is just really, really crucial, especially as a local business sometimes. So the good news is that if you are in a state where you don't feel like you can do a seminar, even a small one, you still have an option to use the same concept. And for those of you who are like, hey, maybe I want to do a live seminar, this can give you a lot of ideas for that as well. So we were able to, like I mentioned, get 235 leads, 25 appointments, 8 phone calls. That's just from 1 month. We have been doing this for many months at this point, and this was just last month. So it's been great to see the results. And we have expanded the same strategy to other businesses within their niche and outside of their niche and their industry. We've used it for a lot of totally unrelated types of businesses. So the cool thing is that this system, it actually does work for just about anybody, because it's going to be tailored towards the information that your audience really needs to know about. So we did a video training campaign. It was heavy on SMS marketing, and it had a really important follow-up elements in there to make this campaign work the way that it does. So for those of you who are not super familiar with everything that's needed to run Facebook advertising campaigns that convert and the different deliverables that are really included, not just in this campaign, but ultimately these are things that are included in any campaign that we would build for someone or run for someone. And the first thing is just simply realizing that your potential customers are on these platforms. There's no question about that, but you do need a strategy tailored to your own local business. So again, this specific strategy is awesome because it can work for really anybody. It may need to be shifted slightly depending on what you do if you feel like it's a little bit outside of the possibilities for you. But trust me, when you get to brainstorm, there's always ways that you can kind of retrofit a strategy to fit your own business if you're willing to take the time to figure that out. So obviously you then need to plan and execute on the strategy that you've created or that someone else has created for you. The first step in really any of our campaigns is to educate with content. So video is our medium of choice as much as possible, but blogs can work really well and simple engaging posts can work really well also. In this specific type of campaign, we have used a mixture of videos and blogs, less on the engaging posts side. But the benefit of this is if your video and blog topics are very directly related to what it is you do and that information that your audience would be seeking towards the top of the funnel, then you're going to be able to identify through their consumption who is actually a good fit for something like this before sending them those ads that are just traditionally more expensive. And by expensive, it's not something that has a price list associated with it, but anytime you're looking for a lead, a conversion, a purchase, anything of that nature, it's going to cost you more because there are fewer people that you are ultimately going to be able to reach impression wise. You better make sure that those impressions are going to the right people. That is a big reason why a lot of people lose money on these types of ads. And it's not the platforms, it's the fact that they just simply don't know what it is they're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, then you're probably going to be doing some things wrong, and that's when big money can be lost. But it doesn't have to be. We've always run profitable campaigns. That is our first and foremost priority, is to help businesses actually see a strong return on investment. And if you can look at it in that way, you'll see why building this warm audience through your content is actually going to reduce the cost per lead, reduce the cost per schedule, reduce the cost per client acquisition. So we did use these kind of foundational educational pieces. We created them, and that's a mixture of videos that I've done and then blogs that we've written for them. The next step is to present the core offer with your ad. So in this case, the core offer is actually a consultation. They have different financial bonuses that people can get, but really what we're presenting here is the offer to get this free training on kitchen and bath remodeling. And anybody who is thinking about a kitchen and bath remodel, whether that's right now, 6 months from now, or a year from now, they understand that there's a lot that goes into it and they want to be educated. So we're not just doing some free training that is going to appeal to everyone, because we don't need to appeal to everyone. We just want to appeal to those people who are actually thinking about getting started. So that is going to be the offer for the specific training, in which we are heavily delivering through text message. So with different types of ads, sometimes the information is going to be auto-filled. And if you have somebody that has auto-filled information, you're always going to notice that they're not going back to edit it and sometimes even review it. And you're going to get a lot of email addresses that are typically incorrect. Even when you don't have ads like that and you're running something that's focused on conversions, you still will get people that will use email addresses that maybe they don't log into very often, or that they're not really checking. Sometimes your emails will just go to spam, or they will delete them because their inbox is full. And if that's the case, then you're missing the opportunity to continue the conversation. So we try and use text message as much as possible these days because it's working so well across the board. And this is an example where we are primarily trying to get them to engage through text and to be able to deliver that training through text as well, because people often are watching video content on their phone anyway, so it makes a lot of sense. This would be a much more difficult thing to do with something like a PDF, because delivering a PDF through text is not that effective. People don't know how to save PDFs to their phone. And if we really want them to watch the content or engage with the content, then let's give it to them in a medium that works best for them. So once they opt in, they're giving us first name, last name, email, phone number, and one additional question that is, considered a qualifying question, but in all honesty, it's something that helps with data a lot too. So once they do that, they are going to be sent to one video that prepares them for what they're about to watch. And then finally, they're going to be going to the video training page itself. So with this video training page, we want them to go ahead and really watch the content. That is the first priority, but then we're guiding them towards taking that next step, which in this case is to schedule an appointment. So even if you are not a business that needs scheduled appointments, you may need scheduled calls. And even if you want something like foot traffic, there are ways that you can craft your offer so that it delivers to someone that is going to be more inclined to come in your physical location. So any of those types of businesses can work. We do work with all of them, and this same exact strategy can be utilized. So it's important to note that we are tracking what people are doing every step of this process. And by that, I mean, we know who went to the first video, we know who went to the primary training, we like to learn about scheduling that, and we know who requested the appointment, and their campaigns really reflect the actions that they've taken. So it makes it more relevant to them. So that's where being able to use different triggers and track different links is really important. And then we are putting them into the CRM that we built for them, and we're tracking it through the CRM after the fact. So this is a crucial component of running profitable campaigns, and that's simply tracking. You want to know which leads are the ones that ultimately purchase. You want to know how many appointments are scheduled. You want to know how many actually show up. You want to see the notes for everyone that came through this funnel, because that's going to guide your decisions moving forward. So if you're not doing that, you're already missing a really, really important factor in running profitable campaigns. And it doesn't even happen during the campaign. It happens after someone has become a lead. And that's data that local businesses simply don't have the luxury of being able to track 100% on a dashboard. There is a lot of human interaction that goes into making a sale for most local businesses. And so keeping that in mind, you've got to make sure that that other part of the process is being tracked as well. So like I mentioned, it's very heavy on text message in this specific campaign, but we are doing call tracking. So we know who is clicking from where to call this business. Obviously, based on the statistics I showed you, people aren't calling nearly as much as they are, opting in and requesting appointments. And we are just also tracking what the business is doing when they call these leads and follow up with these appointments. And that's important for several reasons. But as a business owner, if you are the business owner, you can't be everywhere and you can't see or hear everything. And you need to be confident that the people who are responsible for these leads, for the follow-up, for the appointment, that you actually know what's being done, what's being said. And if you want to go back and listen to any of those, you need to be able to do it. Because a lot of times, this is where a lot of leads and sales are lost. And if you just go off of what someone tells you, you are going to be misinformed ultimately, because there are two sides to every story. And most of the time, people they don't want to admit that they didn't do what they were supposed to do. So you need to see real, accurate, factual data. We also do add emails in the campaigns because why not? We want them to get used to getting emails from the business. We send out educational email campaigns for them every single month, multiple times per month. And so we want people to be excited to receive those. And we also do things like voicemail drops to try and re-engage these people and really make sure that the entire offer in terms of the financial incentives to getting started are sent out, but only to the right people. We also use a little bit of Facebook Messenger in this campaign, but really is just one additional supplement to things like appointment reminders and just reminders to go watch that training. Finally, we are going to track all of those things in the CRM. We're going to make sure we know which campaigns, which ads these specific leads come from, because again, when we see sales, we want to say, okay, are there certain ads that are producing the most paying customers? And that's something that you will often see. But unless you're doing the tracking on the back end, you're always going to be looking at the lowest cost per lead and maybe even the lowest cost per scheduling event or primary event, which would be scheduled appointment, scheduled call, or foot traffic. But those are not always the people that buy. And if you're having a lot of no-shows, or if you're just not having a lot of people walk through the door, you need to know where those people came from, because there's some sort of disconnect going on to where they're not as qualified. So the automation process is something that we've talked a little bit about, but it's very crucial in this specific campaign because we do want to make sure that we are tracking those actions that people took while going through this process so that we can follow up with the appropriate campaign that's actually relevant to them. If somebody never even watches the first video, we don't need to send them to schedule a call. We need to send them to the first video. If they don't watch the training, we want to send them back to the training, because if you do this the right way, that training is your little mini salesperson that can run whenever. And if you are trying to skip over that process, you're ultimately not really following the structure of the campaign. So don't be scared to send someone back to the content that is going to help them, educate them, build rapport, build trust, and show them why you're the best fit. And then finally, just tracking on the other end. Sometimes that's going to take several months to see the ultimate financial return, because especially in an industry like this, you're going to have long close times for some, you're going to have immediate closes for others. So being willing to track that over the course of the entire buying cycle. So 6 months is really solid for this industry, but we don't stop tracking at 6 months because ultimately they can close after a year. I've seen people close after 2 years. I mean, there is no one set time frame for this type of campaign. And ultimately, like I mentioned before, this can work for local businesses of any kind. We work with all of them. Currently in my mentorship and as clients, we've got recurring revenue businesses, bricks and mortar businesses, retailers, service-based businesses, high ticket, low ticket, everything in between. And I believe that this can work for just about everyone if done the right way. But we also work with marketers and coaches. I mean, my business itself is marketing and mentorship primarily. And this is a strategy we also use internally. So it works really well for the local businesses, but it works just as well for online businesses. So anybody who's got quality information to provide to their audience can really, really benefit from this. It doesn't matter if you're selling products, services, or if you have more of a bricks and mortar location that you really need people to come inside the door. So we ultimately do this in my mentorship program. We also set it up for people. So this is something where I can implement this entire system and then pass the baton to someone else, show them what they need to do to manage it. But because of everything that's going to be involved, we're going to be able to have a very smooth transition. They're going to have enough to test in terms of ads, all of that good stuff. And there's really very minimal that needs to be done in terms of heavy workload, lots of long hours. It's really someone just knowing what to do, staying on top of it, and making the changes that the data dictates. And then obviously, like this client, we do agency work. So that's where we set it up, run it all for you. And you really don't have to do much other than focus on your leads and your appointments and making those sales. So this is focused on social advertising. There are other ways you can use this. We have used these same types of strategies in lots of formats. You can run these things on TV if you're doing TV advertising. You can do it in the newspaper, you can do it on the radio. And it's definitely a new concept for people to think about. Like, why would I send someone to a video training from my pieces of advertising that are in person? Well, people go to URLs from in person physical pieces of literature or TV commercials all the time. So instead of being like everyone else and just saying, here's my offer, buy from me, in those types of formats, you have no idea who's interested and who's not. So being able to really pre-qualify by getting them to opt in for this training, you've now got more people on your list and you've got emails and phone numbers, which is very powerful for continued follow-up and marketing. And you've also got a really great way to retarget them, even if they don't opt in. If someone was willing to go from a physical piece of advertising to this link, there's clearly an interest there somewhere. And so we're going to be able to keep marketing to those people more directly. So it's not a lost opportunity. I actually think with physical or traditional advertising, this becomes a really, really unique opportunity to stand out. Then you want to make sure that you have the sales and systems behind that to make the most out of your ad spend. If you have a terrible salesperson that doesn't know how to make the sale, doesn't matter how many leads and appointments they get. If you have someone who refuses to follow up with leads quickly and they're waiting 5 days, you're going to miss out on so much great stuff. And the truth is, you can still make money with those kinds of situations, but don't you want to make the most that you can make? And I'm sure your answer is yes. So the content side of it, that's another thing that's really important. Like I mentioned several times throughout this presentation, you need to make sure that your video training is actually valuable, that it does the things that it's supposed to do in terms of acting like this educational speaker, but also salesperson at the same time. And that's typically not going to be just telling someone to schedule every 5 minutes. There is a structure to the way that engaging quality content should go. There are directions that you need to give. There's a way to present your offer, and that's something you need to focus on, but also that front end content that we talked about right at the beginning that is building an audience of people who we already know have an interest in what you do. And that could be shorter videos, 1-minute videos, could be blogs, or those just engaging social media posts. And you need to make sure that you're not skipping over that aspect either, because it's very important and most people do skip it over, and that's why they're not seeing really the results that they want to see in a large percentage of cases. Granted, there are plenty of other issues that often happen on the technical side, but if you're only promoting content and you never put out an offer and you're not getting opt-ins and you're not getting appointments, well, how much are you really able to determine what your content has done for your business? So you've got to have the content, but you've also got to have the direct lead generation, conversion focused advertising that follows it up to make sure that the natural progression of the way people buy is kept in mind. And then finally, the retargeting ads to make sure if somebody doesn't opt in, they get another chance. To make sure if they do opt in, but don't schedule, that we really embed into them why this is a great decision for them. So I know quite a few elements involved in this, but ultimately it's not an overly complicated campaign. It does have a good number of assets involved with that. But really the cool thing is that anybody who's working with us, whether it's my students or my setup clients or agency clients, we really provide all the templates and all of the frameworks for the videos and all of that good stuff. So even if you have no idea what you're doing, we can still make this something that is possible for you. So I really hope that you guys have enjoyed this training today. And if you have comments or questions, drop them in the comments and I'll make sure to get to them. And if you really want to talk to us about helping you with your marketing, maybe you're not even sure in what way you need help, or if it's a good fit, that's totally cool. And there's going to be a link there that you can just schedule a call to talk about it and see what's up. No pressure, just want to make sure that if it is a good fit, that we're able to help you in the same way that we've helped other businesses.